Hey, it's Jorge, and today I want to share with you my top 5 email marketing tips. Now, here's the results that I'm getting by following these simple tips. Usually when I send out an email, I get about anywhere between 45 to 65% email open rates, and I've even gotten up to 80% email open rates, which honestly, I haven't seen any guru have those kinds of numbers, and I want to share with you how I've been able to do that. I've been through many email courses. I've followed a lot of gurus, a lot of people. Some of them are really great to follow. Others put out good stuff every now and then, but I still follow them. And then there's the people that I just don't really pay attention to much, other than to just kind of stay up to date on what's going on in the internet marketing world. So what I've been doing and the things that I'm going to share with you today are things that I know work for sure. So pay attention to this, because if you're doing any kind of email marketing, hopefully this will help you increase your numbers. Hopefully it will help you build a better relationship with your list, and hopefully it will help you make more money from your customers. So here's the first thing, and this is possibly the most important thing. Tip number 1 is you want to make it personal, and you want to actually care about the people that you are writing emails to. And here's the thing, when I first started getting into online marketing, and I started going through courses and all of that, I went through all these kinds of programs, and some people did the whole, get email opt-ins and sell. You want to just sell. And honestly, we're in business, so you're going to have to sell at some point. But the reason why I get a lot of open rates is because I actually care about the people that are reading my email newsletters, and I treat every single email I get as if it were not just some random person I just met off the street, but as if it were my best friend, maybe if it were my favorite cousin, my favorite uncle, someone that's really close to me and I care about them. So I share the best information that I can possibly share with them in every email. So every time I send out an email, I make sure that I give them some sort of value. I make sure that I do something or share with them something that's going to help them in some way or another. So that's really the most important thing. And I actually send out emails sometimes where all I do is just connect with someone, just share a small tip. It's a small email, maybe up to 10, 15, 20 lines of email, something that's really, really small, just to share something, just to kind of, let people know, hey, I'm here, kind of thing. And that way they're wanting to read my next email and my next email. So every time I send out an email, my goal is to get them to be interested in reading my next email. So that's the first tip. Make it personal and make sure that you care about the people. Now, the second tip is when you write emails, you want to, again, stay personal and write to a single person. So when you're going to write in the active voice and write about you, like not so much, hey, you guys, this is what I'm doing today, but pretend like you're writing to your best friend. So write to one single person, and Evan Pagan talks about this. If you haven't heard of Evan Pagan, he's a great internet guru to follow, a very honest, genuine guy. I've learned a lot from him myself, and one of the things that he teaches is that you need to create what's called a customer avatar. So what this looks like is basically, once you get to know your customers, you're going to realize that your customers all share similar interests, similar characteristics that just basically let you know who your customer really is. And I guess a good example of this would be like frat boys, for example. Anyone can tell a frat boy, because they, if you go to a website like Total Frat Move, for example, you hear all kinds of jokes that they make about being a frat boy, whether it is, forgetting the pledges' names, real names, for example. Those kinds of things where if you say something like that, every single person that's ever been in a fraternity will identify with that. So similar to that, your customers, whatever industry you're in, whatever niche you are in, your customers are all going to share similar characteristics, similar interests. And so you're going to basically come up with what's considered like an avatar. So basically one person, like an imaginary person, that's going to represent all of your customers. And every time you write an email, you're going to write to that specific person, because that's going to be your best customer. If you can connect to that with that one person alone, everyone else will seem to connect with that one person alone. So write to one person only in the active voice, like hey you, or not so much you guys, but just talk to one person. As if you're writing to your cousin, your best friend, just one person. So that's email tip number 2. Now, email tip number 3, and this is possibly in the top 3, the headlines. Headline is very, very important. Now, I've seen a lot of information, some of it's good and a lot of it's really, really bad, but headlines really do make a difference when it comes to open rates and basically people wanting to stay subscribed to your email newsletter. So the first thing, and possibly the most important thing, is the headline needs to be relevant to the copy of the body, the content of the email. And well, you also want to make it relevant to whatever offer it is that you're going to be pitching, if you're going to be pitching an offer at all. But more important than relevance, I've heard people give tips that you want to, get their attention. Okay, well, get their attention too broad, it's too abstract. How do you get someone's attention through an email subject line? And by headlines, I guess I mean subject line. But anyways, I've seen people do things where the advice that I've heard and I've seen a lot of people follow is that you want to write something that kind of sparks curiosity. And I've seen a lot of internet marketers write really, really weird headlines where I get these emails and I'm like, well, okay, this person's been through this training, and honestly, this person's really, I get a feeling like they're not being genuine. And that's really critical, because I try to follow that myself and it didn't really work. I seem to have disconnected with some of my previous email subscribers. So the best tip that I can give you when it comes to writing email subject lines is relevance, and make the headline, tailor it to your personality. Okay, don't try hard to get someone's attention. If you are relevant and you tailor the headlines more to your personality, then you're going to be connecting with people on a more, again, you're keeping it more personal. You're actually caring. You're not trying to fool anyone. You're being genuine. You're being honest. So keep it more personal. So an example, and I guess I do follow a little bit of, I guess what you would call formula to writing a subject line. We're always going to be attracted to things that are, adversity related, whether, going from, poor to rich kind of thing. If you say, for example, weak beats the strong, or anything that has to do with a little bit of adversity, being down and then going up, that usually tends to grab someone's attention. It's a little bit easier. So whenever I can, I try to incorporate that into my subject line. So an example, like I'm drinking coffee, so I'll give you an example. If I were to be sending an email about coffee, a good subject line that I would write would be, lazy cup of Joe to energize your day, for example. So you try to include something that's, the bad and the good within the subject line, and make it something that's relevant. If I want to talk about how coffee energizes your day or anything like that, that's how I would come up with a subject line. It's just something simple and that's relevant to what I'm going to be writing about. So anyways, that's tip number 3. Keep your subject lines relevant. Don't try too hard to spark curiosity or get someone's attention. Just pretend like you're writing to a friend. I mean, I've sent out emails where I basically just said, coffee, or hey, it's just I'm trying to basically write to a friend. So anyways, that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, and this is possibly one of the reasons why I get such high email open rates, and it has to do with segmenting your list. Okay, now I don't know what niche you're in, what industry you're in, but most industries, most niches, usually you have a series of topics that you can kind of expand to. And some people are sometimes interested in all of the topics, but some people are sometimes only interested in a couple or a few. And it usually has to do, especially when it comes to like crafts or anything that has to do with that has like a level where, you know, you have beginners, you have intermediates, you have advanced people kind of thing. You know, if you can segment your list and say you have topics that have to do with just beginners and others with intermediate people, if you can segment your list and only send beginner stuff to the beginners, then you're not going to bother any of the intermediate and advanced people with topics that they already know and don't really want to be getting more information on, kind of thing. Or the opposite, you know, if someone's a beginner and you send them a really advanced topic that it's just goes over their head because they're just getting started, getting to know the lingo or whatever language, if there's any kind of language that they need to learn for the niche or craft, whatever you're teaching. You know, if you segment the list, it becomes more relevant and people connect better with you. So segmenting is very, very important. So that's tip number 4. And then tip number 5, and tip number 5 is really something that I've just recently kind of noticed. And so I don't know exactly how well this will work for other people, but I noticed that it started working for me because before I started doing this, I didn't really get very high email open rates. And so what I started doing was I kind of became consistent with my email marketing. And what I mean by that is people get emails from me, you know, well, I'm in different business niches. So one of my businesses, what I've done is I basically came up with a newsletter. And a newsletter is, to me, is basically an email that I personally write every week. And I send out that newsletter every single Friday at 7 a.m. like clockwork. So every Friday, people that subscribe to my email, they expect an email from me on Friday at 7 a.m. And by having that consistency, people seem to want to stay subscribed to that newsletter. Now, that doesn't mean that they only hear from me on Fridays, because I also have an email autoresponder sequence that goes out to people. And that obviously goes out depending on when they sign up. So, you know, it's spaced out. They get a couple emails the first few days, and then they don't get another autoresponder for 2, 3, 4 days, and then up to 5, 7, 14 days, whatever. So it's basically, you know, I have like 33 messages that spread out. So I basically stay in touch with people for about a period of about, I don't know, I think I'm up to about 14, 16, maybe 18 months. So I have a bunch of autoresponders that go out separate, but every Friday I send out what I call an email newsletter, and it's an email that I make look a little bit different. My autoresponder sequence is an email that's plain. It's a very plain email. I have basically a table of 300 pixels wide. So it's just like a small, short emails where that's basically where I do some of my selling, some of my pitching. But I also share a lot of good content in my email autoresponder, so people don't expect just a sales pitch from autoresponders. They can also expect good content from some of those autoresponders. So it's kind of like my timeless content, just good content that I want to share. That's what I have in there. But my email newsletters, though, it's something where it's a little bit more like an e-magazine, like an email magazine kind of thing. And this is something that was taught by, I believe, Ryan Dice, and there was someone else that he was partnered with that they were doing this kind of email marketing thing. Now, my email marketing newsletter has a high conversion rate when it comes to sending out the email on the day of. Now, I tried to do my email newsletter, all my autoresponders as my email newsletter, basically the same design where I have you know, like a banner on top of the email and have kind of like other links to previous newsletters kind of thing. And what I found was that my response rate, my sales actually went down. So the tip that I want to give you as a bonus, because I kind of just thought of this, was when you do email autoresponders, keep those as simple as possible and have them be focused where you only have one option to click on an offer that you're sending. So keep them as simple as possible. When you have an email newsletter, something you write personally, when people expect that, you know, you can afford to have a little bit more distractions and kind of brand you and make you look a little bit more professional. Because I found that if I keep it simple for my email newsletters, people think that it's just a bunch of autoresponders and it loses that personal touch. So it's important to have something that's branded, and that's why I created what's called the email newsletter. So I guess it's a concept that I would call the unbranded versus the branded version. I haven't really been teaching this or anything, so I'm just kind of sharing this information with you because I know it works. And so anyways, this is the 5 best tips that I can give you when it comes to email marketing. There's obviously a lot more to it. There's a lot of copywriting involved. How do you actually structure an email? And it depends on what you're doing, whether you're just sharing content, whether you're trying to pitch an offer. You know, there's a lot of things to do. But if you want to learn more about email marketing, just feel free to check out the link below this video in the description box. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the next video.